Order in the chamber. Let's bow our heads for prayer. Our most precious Heavenly Father, be with us tonight as we do the business of our town and our board and our people. Be with us, guide us, direct us, and give us the words that we need to say and the things that we need to do to be pleasing in your sight. In God's name we pray. Amen. Let's stand and pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. There's one thing we need to add to the agenda. JK under 9 is consider approval of ARP funding disbursement to the town of Benson and KP Authority to oversee and sign off on any documentation. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. On the consent agenda, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. We have with us tonight Jennings Gray from Electric Cities to make a presentation. Come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Board of Commissioners. It's an honor and a privilege to be here tonight with you. My name is Jennings Gray with Electric Cities, North Carolina. I serve on the Economic Development Department for Electric Cities. And reason for my visit tonight is to talk about our downtown revitalization grant. This is a $10,000 unmatched grant that we award to our member cities. It's a spring cycle and spring grant cycle and a fall grant cycle. And each year, this year actually, this spring cycle was a very competitive grant cycle period. We received many grant applications, but there was one that stood out from the others. And it's my honor and privilege to be able to inform you tonight that you are the winner of the $10,000 grant for Benson. A couple of the things that stood out on the grant application that are notable is that it received the full support of the commissioners. It received full support for downtown. It's the project Outlay improvement, so it's going to be the grants will go toward revitalization of grant in downtown Benson, and we feel like this is another step that investment that Benson is taking to improve their downtown even further, and we applaud those efforts. Now more than ever, this is a time when downtowns are under a lot of pressure to support their businesses and have folks a place for residents and visitors to come and visit and provide. This definitely provides a welcome addition to that. So with that being said, I've already given the official check. Yeah, Fred's got that. So
I'll be back in a couple of weeks.
Keep him honest, Kim. Here, Fred, I'll just present this to you. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Thank you, Mayor.
Got to present the proclamation for National Police Week. If all the policemen that are here want to come up and stand with Greg for the presentation. everybody complains about when we do something, we never see it when they're watching it from on the internet, so let's let them see that. There you go. Come on, right there. Just don't get in front of the camera.
Whatever received.
National Police Week. Whereas there are over 900,000 police officers serving in communities across the United States, including the brave men and women that serve the town of Benson. And whereas National Police Week was first established in 1963 by President John F. Kennedy. And whereas the elected officials and the citizens of the town of Benson wish to express their gratitude to those that sacrifice their own safety to protect the safety of this community. And whereas since the first recorded death in 1791, over 24,000 law enforcement officers in the United States have made the ultimate sacrifice and been killed in the line of duty. And whereas the name of those dedicated public service are engraved on the wall of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial in Washington, D.C. Now, therefore, I, Jerry M. Medlin, Mayor of the town of Benson, do hereby proclaim the week of May 9th through May the 15th, 2021 as a police week in the town of Benson. And I urge all citizens to celebrate and reflect on the sacrifice of our police officers and thank them for their service. Thank you to all of you, and we really do appreciate the job that these officers do. Some of them have been here a short period of time, and the others have been here a long period of time. But all of them will have the same responsibility and do the same job. So congratulations to all of you, and congratulations to the chief.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody wants to say anything,
I want to thank everybody on the board, all the citizens for recognizing us. We definitely do it because we care about the town we're in, and we appreciate all the backing we're getting from y'all. Thank y'all.
I second that.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Donuts.
Tim Robbins. Scott, wait a second. Come back up. Scott, come up and introduce you, you police.
Mayor, members of the board, it's my pleasure tonight to be here to introduce you to our new hire that we've had come on board this month. Before you hear is Isaac Potter. Officer Potter started with us on April the 12th. He comes to us with a BS in criminal justice from Lees-McRae College. He graduated from the BLET program at JCC in December of 2019. And he comes to us with a year of experience with the town of Irwin. So it is my pleasure at this moment to introduce to you our new police officer, Officer Isaac Potter. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. You can have a word to say if you want to.
I can try. I'm thankful to be able to have the opportunity to be employed in the town of Benson. I enjoyed playing in the streets of Benson as a child, and I look forward to building relationships with each one of you as you see me out in the town. Thank you for the opportunity.
Glad to have you.
Yeah, you got to be sworn in.
Okay.
Come up in front.
So they can see you. Okay. All right, you just need to raise your right hand and put this on. And I'm gonna say I, and then you say your name, and I'm gonna read all this, and then the only thing that you need to do is say, so help me God once I get through.
All right.
All right, you ready?
Yep.
All right. I
Isaac Potter,
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina and to the constitutional powers and authorities which are or may be established for the government thereof, that I will endeavor to support, maintain, and defend the Constitution of said state, not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States, that I will be alert and vigilant to enforce the criminal laws of this state, that I will not be influenced in any manner on account of personal bias or prejudice, and that I will faithfully and impartially execute the duties of my office as a law enforcement officer according to the best of my skill, abilities, and judgment. So help me God.
So help me.
Okay, well, congratulations. And I think you signed it.
Thank you.
And I'll
Come on
give you
up,
a
Tim.
copy of that.
You have any public works people with you?
I don't.
They're all home resting.
They're all home resting.
This is a proclamation for National Public Works Week. Whereas public works services provided in our community are an integral part of our citizens' and everyday lives, and whereas the support of an understanding and informed citizenry is vital to the efficient operation of public works systems and programs such as water, sewer, street, and highways, public buildings, and solid waste collection. And whereas the health, safety, and comfort of this community greatly depends on these facilities. And whereas the quality and effectiveness of these facilities are well in their planning, design, and construction are vitally dependent upon the efforts and skill of public works officials. And whereas the efficiency of the qualified and dedicated personnel who staff public works departments is materially influenced by people's attitude and understanding of the importance of the work they perform. Now, therefore, I, Jerry M. Minton, Mayor of the Town of Benson, do hereby proclaim the week of May 16th through the 22nd as Public Works Week in the Town of Benson. And I call upon all citizens and civic organizations to acquaint themselves with the issues involved in providing our public works and recognize the contribution which public work officials make every day to our health, safety, comfort, and quality of life. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You can say something.
Well, we appreciate it. Thank you, board. Thank you, Mayor. There's a group of guys that every day show up and do their jobs, and sometimes it's almost unthinkable things to the normal mind. It's just normal stuff to these guys, and they do it with a lot of professionalism and a lot of enthusiasm. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Benson Foundation of the Arts. Who's here representing them? JH. DH, I mean.
A couple more here. Can we all three share the podium?
Why, certainly.
Thank you.
Do we use that?
There should be. Yeah,
Okay, so go on and do. I can protect. I'm DH, Mr. Mayor and Councilwoman. This is Jerry Keith Lyle. She has a new position with the Benson Little Theater, which is
Artistic manager.
artistic manager. And so we have been working for the last year and a half, 2 years, figuring out the best way to improve our technical assets, visual stimulation for the theater through the funding from the Benson Foundation for the Arts. And one of the things that we have come up with is that we're in our 21st season. We've been at Mr. Barefoot's auditorium since 2000, and we have had no visual identity as far as signage in town, except for a poster when we do productions. We do usually 4 productions a year, and a summer theater workshop, 2 of those. And we would like your consideration on a sign alteration to the sign that is over the arch at the beginning of, at the entrance to the municipal building. Whereas, and this visual, you've got that. it says W.J. Barefoot Auditorium over the arch there. And what we would like to do, this is a potential design that James Elliott at SAS Systems did. And what it will do is add Benson Little Theater underneath Mr. Barefoot's name. So it would read W.J. Barefoot Auditorium and then Benson Little Theater under it. As of now, we have no permanent signage of any kind that exists. And we keep running into a lot of people in the area and just outside of the area that do not know that the theater exists at all in town. And we think that would encourage more participation, more audience people. And
We also feel like it would give us an identity while we're considering the downtown revitalization and all the new identity that's going to be coming in, hopefully, into your town. We'd like to be a big part of that as well, to help with bringing in entertainment to that particular issue.
yeah, so that's our first. And also, there is an alternate idea for the sign. The first idea for the sign was the one over the arch, and the second idea was the one in the yard, in the lawn. That's the larger sign that has a lot of space underneath, and it says Benson Municipal Building as now. That is another alternate possibility to add underneath that sign. And this would all be paid for by the Benson Foundation for the Arts and some very generous people who will.
What is
Yeah.
your group's recommendation
Say
on the sign?
I'm sorry.
What's your recommendation on the sign?
In terms of, I would like to see them both changed, but we'll one of them, one or the other, on whichever one that you all were more interested or more comfortable with, is the way we go.
We were not sure. We were standing out there looking at the one over the arch. That was the initial idea. And then we happened to look at the sign in the yard that was beside us and thought that could be a possibility too. I know it's a larger, and it's your big signage in the yard for the municipal building. And we didn't know if you would consider an addition to that sign or if the one over the arch would be a better choice.
What's your feeling of the board? Do you have any feelings?
I think it's fine. I'm just asking, and I don't know what I'm talking about. What made you pick the blue?
The
To
blue,
go along with the signage that I've seen coming into town, it matches the branding that Benson has chosen for its town. We just wanted to be able to sort of blend in with the rest of Benson's branding that you guys, I think this branding is new, the new Benson blue, and is that?
a lot of the signs I see in the town have that blue in it. And so when James Elliott designed it, he decided to incorporate that color. It's not something that we desire and have to have color-wise. It was just an idea based on what was already up in the
Definitely
street.
something that, if you all had another color that you thought would go better for the building.
So the color up there is already blue on that. The WJ Barefoot, is that
Is it
already
blue?
blue?
It sort of
Unless
just
they
looks
say
like a
it's black
stencil.
to me.
Yeah,
It's
just-
black on white.
It's just
Yeah.
black letters on white, it looks like just a white board.
It could have been a darker blue at one time, but I don't know if it's changed or faded
Mm-hmm.
or what, but it looks like black letters on white background.
It'll blend with the building. I got no taste. I have no idea.
We think so.
What's the feeling of the board?
I make a motion that we approve it.
Getting ready to ask Mayor if we could hear from the staff. There might be an alternate suggestion. Might please everybody. Sure. Tim, were you thinking about another alternative?
Not really an alternative, but maybe an addition to this effort. We spoke about, I don't know, several months ago about the need to relocate the electronic message board located at the corner of Main and Wall. That's a necessity to accommodate the NCDOT roundabout project. We've looked at relocating it at the Benton Square area. but, we just don't believe it's gonna be feasible to relocate it on site. With the change in the traffic pattern, there's really no way to position it, such that it's gonna be very effective. So we thought about, when it has to come down for the construction of that project, that we find a new location for it. And at the staff level, we discussed in front of town hall. So if we're looking at a signing change, and if there's some agreement that placing it in the front yard of town hall would be a good thing for the electronic board, we could possibly, relocate that board and incorporate the sign change.
If you can light us up, I'm all for it.
So you want to do the one with the above the archway and then use the signage board?
I could imagine you could reconstruct that masonry.
Yeah.
Sort of stand that or that foundation that electronic board is in, and possibly design it such that you have maybe the proposed signage above it. So you'd have a sign and incorporated in it would be a changeable message board as well.
Yeah.
You want to add
The
that?
theater love lights. We're all for lights.
So has it been decided that the board is gonna be put here in the yard?
It's not been decided. We brought it to the board a few months ago and said, give us some ideas of where to put it. And then we haven't been able to bring it back. So when he saw this, he kind of sparked that thought process again. Because it's not gonna fit and square, not with the roundabout thing.
The sign is not gonna work to relocate it on the Benson Square corner. Some of it's to do with the traffic pattern change. A lot of it's to do just simply with sight distance. When you slide it back to accommodate the planned radius, it really starts to get tucked behind, the print shop. You can't see it from a very long distance approaching. So it's going to kind of get, once you slide it back, it's almost going to get out of sight for us. So we believe at the staff level that relocating and finding a better location that it would be more visible would be a better thing. If we could leave it somewhere on Main, it'd probably be a great thing, but we just can't find a location that would accommodate it where it would work.
So that sounds to me like two different things. First, is the board want to put it out there, the sign? Okay. So that's two different things. Relocating it and then adding your information to it. So that's two different motions, right? Well, you might be able to do it all one, but you got to decide whether to put it here or not. You've not decided that.
Why don't we do this, and she'll withdraw her motion? We let the two groups get together and come back to the board with a recommendation of what they want to do.
I can do that.
Yeah, that's fine with that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Well, then I withdraw my motion.
All right, number 2.
The second, you want to take this?
Well, forgive me, I have laryngitis.
Help you out.
So one of the things that we wanted to talk to you about was, in order to compete with some of the other community theaters in the area and to raise our ability to pay for some of the things that we have to pay for in order to make a production a little bit bigger, a little bit better, a little bit more professional, we wanted to propose being able to sell wine and beer only, no other alcohol, of course, at our productions. It would be prior to the production and then at intermission. Because there are so many people coming through the theater, there would probably be no time to serve anybody more than 1 7-ounce glass at the beginning of the show. Then there's an hour that they have to sit. And if they want a second glass, there's another hour after that second glass. DH has done some work on the math and how it will bring our ability to pay for the productions, with basically just some of the sales of alcohol alone. Andy, if you want to go over some of the things that you found out in your research.
I can
I apologize for my voice.
briefly tell you that looking at, selling it at about a $5 glass, most theaters will tell you that it's about a 20% audience participation into the profits of it. So we're kind of looking at, I looked at if we sold 30 glasses or beers.
And we're talking about the
It's a
little
7-ounce.
party cups, not a big glass of wine.
We're looking at that plus tips, and on average, most theaters say, local theaters will say, it's about $100 tip. So we're looking at about $4,200 average in profits. And we have patrons every year, and some of you do participate in that. And we raise 10 to 12,000 to do all the productions we have in a season. And with raising 4,000 more, that's a lot to do with enhancing our technical and visual stimulation in the theater.
$4,000 can pay salaries or the stipends of 4 of our staff members throughout the year. The director's fee is somewhere between $700 to $1,000 per show. So this can wipe out all of our need to raise money in order to pay the staff that comes in and takes care of these shows. They take, 7 to 8 weeks to put on, and we have people that we try to pay because, for instance, we have people coming in from Raleigh. We don't pay a salary, but we do pay a stipend. We try to help people with gas because so many of us are volunteers.
And we have a lot of people, obviously from our community, yes, but we have more and more every season, every show coming from outside the community. We have people coming from Wilmington, from Asheville, different people who are traveling through. There are groups of people who just travel to different community theaters just to see the work. It's not just people seeing their moms and dads or grandparents or
We're also
grandchildren.
starting to bring in a lot of talent from out of town, and so their families are starting to come in to see the shows.
Yeah.
We've got three out-of-towners in our next season already that we cast 2 years ago in Guys and Dolls.
Yeah.
And so they're going to be bringing in their crowds. One of them is from Peace College. She's a graduate student there. Her entire class is going to be coming to see her. So we wanted to be able to offer something that offers sort of a date night feel. And going along with the revitalization of downtown, we're going to be bringing in more restaurants and things like that. I think this will add to the idea of being able to go to the theater for a date rather than just going to see your granddaughter in play.
Yeah. And we're constantly asked by patrons, newer patrons that haven't been here before, do we sell wine or beer? And we say, of course, no, we do not.
But we do tell them that.
But we're working on it.
Down on Main Street, and a lot of people go to Main Street to get a glass of wine or a beer before they come. And we'd like to give them the option to just be with us for the evening, rather than going out and coming back and that sort of thing.
What to say the board?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Well, I need to ask our lawyer a question first. Are we allowed to do that? I mean, does the ordinance permit us to do that?
Yeah, you're allowed to do it. There's some steps you need to take if you're gonna do it,
Right.
but it's not illegal to allow that.
So even with children, you can still do that?
It's pretty standard practice in most community theaters where we have children's in education programs, just like we do here. We got a lot of our statistical information from Raleigh Theater and Credit Regional Theater, who both serve alcohol and wine, or not alcohol, but wine and beer.
If you're going to do it, you need to require them to carry dram shop liability. You need to amend an endorsement to your insurance policy. We need to amend our existing contractual relationship with BFA and whoever's going to be putting on the productions, if they're going to do that, because you're going to have liability because you're the landlord and the property owner where alcohol is being served. If someone leaves and gets hurt, then there will be a lawsuit and you'll probably be named in it. But it's not. It's certainly not illegally.
You asked my question because I was wondering about the legality of it overall with that falling, or, because it is upstairs, right? It's the productions upstairs?
In the auditorium, right, so, the main.
Yeah, you do have to go to the main entrance, yeah.
Or balcony seats.
And one of the things that we did consider is the time. We don't believe that there's time prior to any show or during an 10-minute intermission that anyone would be able to get two drinks down.
We're gonna clean the wine up after the show.
Well, of course, the cleaning crew that cleans the rest of the theater, which is us.
Mayor, I think Williams wants to speak. William, he's on Zoom. He's wanting to speak.
Speak, William.
Y'all hear me okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Wide open.
Okay, I just wanted to say, first off, I'm not opposed to this at all, but I think while we're on this topic, this brings up some more scenarios as obviously the auditorium town property. There are several other town properties that make a benefit if we were to allow alcohol sales on town property, such as the Singing Grove during sundown in downtown. If you're a restaurant currently on Main Street and you have a back alley behind you that's a town-owned alley that may not be used for a thoroughfare, if you wanted to put a patio at the back of your restaurant right now on town property, people would not be allowed to walk out that back door with alcohol drinks in their hand the way our policy states now. So I've been waiting for this to come up, but I think this board as a whole should look at all of our town properties and maybe not just give to one as far as the Foundation Arts, which I'm in favor of approving this, but I do think we need to look at maybe putting a policy together to allow possibly some alcohol consumption and sales on all town properties throughout the town.
Any other comments from the board? We have a motion on the floor. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed, no.
No.
3-1.
No, 2-1. I oppose. And the reason why I'm opposing it is because, like William just said, I think it should be a study. I'm not opposing what you're wanting to do, but I think when you get the study done and this can all take place during the same time, then fine, and work it out and bring it back to the board. I agree.
2-2.
I will 2-2.
I'll break the tie. Vote in favor.
Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any other individual wishing to address the board? Come forward. Anybody else that wants to come and address the board, come forward. Does any of the commissioners have questions about the department reports? Public hearing, RZ 2021-06, come forward there.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. This evening, I'll give you some information on 2 rezoning requests in the town of Benson. The first one is a rezoning request requesting to rezone 8.9.2 acres of land from I-2 heavy industrial to R6 single family residential. The 8.9 acres is split between 3 separate parcels, all within the same ownership of Praise of Power Tabernacle. Okay. So while they get their presentation up. So the request, the applicant petitioner is Robert Knowles. The properties are located on South Market Street within 2 parcels are within the corporate limits of the town. 1 parcel is in the extraterritorial jurisdiction. The site location is in the southwestern portion of town. So you have South Market Street and you have Chicopee Road to the east of the parcels, and you have South Wall Street to the west. Going on South Market Street back towards town going north. You have a few uses that include industrial uses. You have Benson agriculture. You have the Benson Armory. And to the south of the property, you have the Gaines Mobile Home Park. And this is the site located on the screen and in the image on the screen. Also have the railroad to the west of it that runs along on US Highway 301 or South Wall Street. And going further east, you have I-95. Currently, the 3 parcels are vacant with open space on the land. Also, to the north of the site, you do have the Benson Housing Authority. And there are some parcels that are immediately to the east of the parcels that contain single-family homes. And the Power of Praise Tabernacle Place of Worship also has their site adjacent to the 3 parcels. Images on the screen gives you an idea of what the surrounding area looks like. So the top photo facing further south on South Market Street, that building to the far in the far background is the Power of Praise Tabernacle. And then in the left corner, you have the Denning Agri Supply going further north on South Market Street. And then the below image is the Benson Housing Authority. Currently, the site is zone I2, heavy industrial, and most of the surrounding parcels are zone I2 as well, except for the Benson Housing Authority, which is zone R6. And then to the south of the property, you have residential manufactured home park. The comprehensive land use plan has identified this area as an industrial growth area. And also on the future land use map, as you can see on the right-hand image of the screen, that this area has been identified as suitable for industrial growth. So the request is to rezone these 3 parcels to R6 residential. The R6 residential district is designed to provide for more high density residential development, as well as a mix of uses in residential types, including multifamily dwellings mixed with other housing types. So primarily in that zoning district, permitted by right, you have single family dwelling, adult care home up to 6 residents is permitted by right. Any other type of residential uses, such as a apartment, duplex, would be permitted only through a special use permit. So because the request is inconsistent with the comprehensive land use plan, as well as the future land use map, the applicant conducted a neighborhood meeting and met with adjacent property owners to inform them of this request. The planning board heard this request last week and they recommended approval. However, staff recommends denial of this request. based solely on the evaluation of the request, and what the comprehensive land use plan has identified this site, and also other studies that have been conducted within the town that has identified this site and surrounding parcels as an area, key area of focus for industrial growth. And so, in evaluating this request, it was determined that this proposed zoning does not promote the implementation of a comprehensive land use plan. It is inconsistent with goal number 2 of the comprehensive land use plan to accommodate reasonable land use demands outside of downtown and its residential land use classifications. The comprehensive land use plan identifies neighborhood activity centers, and would like to see it, the comprehensive plan does identify the need for more attractive housing. However, it does call for those land uses to be directed and guided more along the 50 north and south corridor, which is certainly outside of this area. And moreover, the area has been identified in the comp plan, I believe it's activity center or activity center number 7 or 9, that would like to direct industrial uses southwest in the town, going towards the Harnett County borderline, and US Highway 301 South Wall Street. So to place a residentially zoned parcels there or amend the zoning map to allow residential uses would be out of line with the comp plan as well as the future land use map. And that also in evaluating this request, would this impact adjacent property owners and the surrounding community? Would the impact be reasonable? It is staff's opinion that it would not be reasonable, because it would not allow land uses that are compatible with the general character of the area. Right now, most of the land is open space, but we know that for future growth, this area is ideal for industrial. If you put residential there, it would, and granted there is the Benson Housing Authority and the mobile home park, but to further allow residential growth there and right adjacent to heavy industrial, those two land uses are incompatible with each other, and that residential development would impact development of industrial nature in the surrounding area. And so it also in evaluating this request, it was determined that it was not in the public good, safety, and general welfare, just because this property, if rezoned, would not be in the character and the manner of the existing development trends for that area, which has again been identified through studies that have been conducted in the town, the comprehensive land use plan. And so the planning board did not agree with that, and they voted to recommend approval of this request. So that's all I have. The approval criteria, as you consider this request this evening, want to keep in mind, is it consistent with the adopted plans and policies, the suitability of the subject property for uses permitted by the current versus the proposed district? Does the change tend to improve the balance of uses or meets a specific demand in the town? The capacity of adequate facilities and services, including roads, recreation facilities, wastewater, and so on. So these are some of the things that you want to consider as you weigh your options this evening about this request. Be more than happy to answer any questions that you have.
Any of the board have questions of Aaron? Tim, will you bring me the list of people that signed in, please? Kind of getting to understand the rules. You don't have to be sworn in for the public hearing. You can speak 3 minutes. And if you've got a group that's going to talk about the same thing, then get a spokesman and let them do the talking, but whoever wants to can come. You must have signed in to be able to speak. So if anybody that's planning on speaking and hadn't signed in, you better do it right now. Okay, I open the public hearing. This is RZ 2021-06. Anyone that wants to come and speak in favor, come forward. Give your name and your address.
Robert, would the board mind if I read this while I talk? Mr. Mayor, members of the board, my name is Robert Knowles. I'm the applicant. My address is 3510 Proprietor Way, Raleigh, 27612. My company in 2000 worked with our Praise Tabernacle Deliverance Church to purchase this property that we were discussing tonight, to build a church and plan for future expansion on that property. Well, unfortunately, over the years, churches changed. Bricks and mortar are not the same to churches today they were back in 2000. As a result of that, and obviously as a result of the pandemic that we're enduring now, the church has decided it's in their best interest to provide for the community and for their congregants opportunities that they may not be able to find elsewhere, which is affordable housing. So we have planned to joint venture with myself, my company, and the church to purchase the property from the church, to put it into a to be named LLC to develop the property, whereby the church invests the property, the land, I raise the capital, and we build single-family affordable housing. That's the intent. Pastors have a passion to help their congregants and to help the community, to provide them low-cost, affordable, nice housing, single-family residential. We think we can develop the property into about 30 home sites and sell homes in the $200,000 to $250,000 range. We hope to keep that average below $250,000. Not only does that provide good housing for the community, for the town of Benson, but also about $7.5 million in additional tax basis. That is now not some point in the future when this property may or may not be developed as industrial. I would have to disagree with some of the comments of the planning board, the director of the board just spoke, that this is in keeping with what's taking place in the neighborhood. Directly behind this property is mobile home park. Directly across the street is housing authority property. And if anything that develops in that area that is other than residential, in my opinion, would be not conducive to what's being developed in the area. I understand long-range planning. I understand you spend a lot of money and time doing that. Also understand that that's probably going to be going through another analysis here soon. And one thing that we've come to realize and understand is that is needed currently in the town of Benson is housing.
Time's up.
Thank you for listening.
Finish what you were on, but
that's basically it. We're going to bring in 30 families that will help attend that theater, will help with shopping downtown and be conducive to good neighbor and add to the value of the town and this tax base. Thank you very much.
Anyone else coming to speak in favor?
My name is Annie Hennett.
My name's Allie.
And we're the pastors of the church in Benson. And I think that it would be a very good idea if you would let us get a request to build the houses there.
Just a minute. What'd you say your name was?
Annie Hennett.
Hennett?
Yes.
You didn't sign in.
I didn't. Oh, I apologize. Did you sign in?
I didn't know.
Well, okay. So do I need?
What's your address?
21 LaFord Drive, Clayton, North Carolina, 27527.
Okay.
Thank you. As I was saying, I think that would be very good for the community to have housing there for people that need some place to stay. We have directly beside us, we have two houses that are built to the left of us, and the field is vacant there. And then in front of us is the projects, and behind us is the mobile home park. And I know that we have been a blessing in that community for everybody that's around there. We do some counseling there. We do food, give out food. We do things that, help the community. And if you would please consider us getting this housing section done, I believe you will be grateful in the long run. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
One more thing. And these are some of the members that are with me. They stand with me also. Can you stand up with the members? They have our full support. Thank you.
Anyone else wants to come and speak in favor? Anyone else in favor? All right. Anyone that wants to come and speak opposed? Anyone want to come speak opposed? No one coming. I close the public hearing. What's the wishes of the board? Any discussion? What do you think? What are you thinking?
I think William wants to speak. I think William wants to speak.
Okay, William.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just gonna say this, and I said this at the last meeting in another project as well. We have a land use plan in play for a reason. I think we all know we just had the big Chickpea expansion that's going there, and we don't have very much industrial area inside the city limits of the town of Benson. At working on the 95 committee with the mayor, we worked very hard to get that flyover bridge over Market Street so that could become our industrial area. And I just don't believe the residential is the way for us to go in that area with the buildings that are being proposed to be built right now, the expansion of Chickpea. I think that would be a detriment to that for us to be able to run that commercial traffic down that road to fly over 95 to get it off of Main Street, which is the reason it's also hard for that Market Street bridge. So I know I can't vote because I'm over electronically tonight, but I would just say that my opinion is I think that would be a detriment to the future land use plans, and I agree with our planning staff that it should be denied.
Any other discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I have something to say. I hate to really sound redundant. I understand what you're saying, 30 more houses. But as I said in the past, our infrastructure is really, we need to work on improving some of that first. Because what's happening, we are about to outnumber ourselves in the service that we can provide for the people. Now the schools they're already overcrowded. It is just beginning to be a lot of houses in Benson there. And I just don't know that we can support them with the sewage and different things. I'm just wondering.
What's your thoughts? Entertain a motion.
Motion to deny. To deny.
A motion to deny has been brought forth. Any discussion?
You want me to read that? All right. Let's see. I make a motion that case number RZ 2021-06 is inconsistent with the adopted goals, objectives, and policies of the town of Benson, and is not reasonable and in the public's best interest, hereby denied. Granting denial. That's my motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. It's rejected. Next case, RZ 2021-07.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, we move to West Hale Street within the corporate limits of the town of Benson. The property is located, West Hale Street is bordered by North Lincoln Street to the
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you. This request is to seek a rezoning of a 0.23 acre tract of land located in the corporate limits from R11, single family residential, to R6, single family residential. Property owner is Sue Woodall, petitioner is Johnson Building Code. Just to give you a little site location, it's located on West Hale Street, or North Lincoln Street to the west. You have South McLam Street to the east, and West Church Street to the south of the property. The predominant, the lot currently is vacant. This is the site at the top image. Image to your bottom left is of the corner of West Hill and McLam Street, and the photo to the bottom right is facing west towards North Lincoln Street. The primary uses in the area are residential. You do have a triplex development right located in that image there at West McLam Street. But predominantly the homes are single family residential. The uses are single family residential. The current zoning map identifies the site as R11. You do have R6 within the area. You have them immediately to the right of the site. The parcel is zone R6, and going across West Hale Street to West Brooklyn is R6, and then going towards the west and south you have R11, single family residential. The comprehensive land use plan does again identify certain nodes within the town as suitable for residential development. You'll see in the screen there the circle with the number 3. That's one of the neighborhood activity centers that has identified, residential growth. And so the future land use map does identify the area for residential, single-family residential, as well as a mix of multifamily residential uses as well. So this request is consistent with the comprehensive land use plan as well as the future land use map. Again, in R6, you have very limited uses within the district. R6 and R11 predominantly is the minimum lot size standards of what can be allowed in the district. So going from R11 to R6 would allow, in R11, a place of worship is allowed. R6, it is not. In R11 or R6 jurisdiction, a special use permit would have to be approved for any type of multi-family development. So the uses are very similar. R6, higher density, including multi-family dwellings. On evaluation and the planning board's recommendation as well recommends to approve this request. Staff recommends to approve this request as well. It meets the approval criteria and the evaluation of the site proves that it would be compatible with the comprehensive land use plan. It would be compatible with the surrounding uses and zoning within the area. And that it would be in the general welfare, as it would promote development in the same existing manner as in the neighborhood currently. That is all that I have. If you have any questions.
Do I have any questions of Eric? I open the public hearing. On RZ 2021-07. Anyone wishing to come and speak in favor, come forward. Give your name and your address.
Thomas Johnson, 546 Dog Eye Road, Benson, North Carolina. Johnson Building Company. And I'm just looking to rezone it R6 and build a single family home. That's it.
That's it.
Good. Thank y'all.
Anyone else in favor of, come forward. No one else coming forward. Anybody that's opposed, come forward. Anyone that's opposed, come forward. I close the public hearing. Any discussions, board?
Yeah. So you say you just want to build one home?
Yes, ma'am.
Make a motion to approve.
There's a motion to approve.
Yeah.
Board of Commissioners adopts a statement of consistency and finds and determines the case number RC 2021-07 is consistent with the adopted goals, objectives, and policies of the town of Benson, is reasonable and in the public interest, hereby granting approval.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Update on sale of town properties, Kim.
So a quick update. Ike has closed on Railroad Street. He'll have to have that tomorrow. He is in the process of closing on Woodall Street.
I'm not closing that one.
Or will.
Alan Lynch is closing it done, but we prepared the deed, Mr. Mayor signed it, and we sent that down for him to close out, so we should have that.
That one was for $45,000. And then, we also put out for bid the town well. That is still
we've not gotten any information on that, which we kind of were figuring that was probably gonna be the way that went. It's just a little piece of triangle. So that's the updates on what we put out for bid, but I did want to bring forth again the conversation on the cemetery. So here's the pictures. Each of y'all should have something at your desk, right, Angie?
Yes.
Okay. And I've numbered the picture a little bit better so y'all can kind of see. So number 1, which is the big plot of land, which is where, you know, most of the burial spots are. And then number 2 is that little piece up at the top left that has the number 1 on it. That piece of property currently is tax valued at $90,000. And then we've got number 3, which is in the very dead center. That piece of property is valued at $15,300. And then you've got number 4, which is the tree, and that is valued at $15,180. I just don't want the conversation to go dead. Keep in mind, it costs $650 a month to mow this cemetery, to maintain it. I probably sell, you know, maybe 1 or 2 plots a year, at $600 a piece. So we're not even getting 2 months worth of grass cutting out there. So I just don't want the conversation to die. I want y'all to know it's still sitting out there. I'd love to sit down and talk to anybody about how we can kind of rearrange, sell the cemetery portion, but maybe separately, and then do the 3 and 4 together in some way, or sell them separately. I just want to refresh, I guess. And if anybody has any thoughts on it since the last time we talked, I'd love to hear.
Well, I'd like to see the board really give some serious thought about what they want to do with this property. We've got a potential buyer, and we're going to meet with them next week and see just how serious they are. And there's a couple of questions that we need to answer before we really get into that. Is there's a cemetery, and then there's some land that is adjacent to the cemetery. Do we want to sell all of it together, or do we want to keep the land and sell the cemetery, or what? And of course, I don't know what. We haven't talked about any money. It's just I wanted to get together with them to see if they're really serious, and if they are, then you know, there's all kinds of funny things you have to do with cemeteries when you start buying and selling. And I'd like to know what their thoughts are before we start really looking at what the possibilities are. But along this same thought, last meeting, I brought the comment that the American Legion came to me and was talking about people that died that were veterans that had no family, and they're being handled by the county. And we heard that, that they take all the ashes and pour them in one bucket, and when it gets full, they go put it somewhere that you don't know where. They don't tell you where it is. And I think we ought to treat our veterans a little better than that. So they've asked if when we get somebody that's destitute when they die, that we provide one grave site that they could bury the ashes on, and there'd be some record of who's there. And what does the board think about providing a site at that graveyard for the American Legion to use if a destitute veteran dies and there's nobody to take care of?
100% fan.
Well, not only the veteran, I'm in favor of anybody being destitute that need a place to be buried, to be buried. That's my thoughts on it.
Anybody that's
Yes.
from Benson. Not from the entire county, but just from Benson.
Right.
So if somebody make a motion,
A motion to do what? To buy and sell? A motion to do what? And what do you?
well, if you wanna say veterans or anybody that's destitute in Benson,
I make a motion that we allow the cemetery to be used to bury veterans from the county, Johnson County, or any resident that is destitute from the town of Benson.
okay. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed, none. Anything else about that, Kim?
No, sir, not about
All
that.
right. The budget's up.
Okay, while Angie is getting that up, I'm bringing forth the proposed budget for the electric department, Fund 31. If we didn't work. There we go. Okay. Some of the proposed revenues that we have, we get a poll attachment fee every year from Charter. That increases 3% every year times the 930 polls, so that puts their fee this year at $16,340. I typically will invoice them every January, and get that money in, so that's nothing new.
You know when that's due, it's a 5-year contract, I think it.
It is an auto renew, the Charter, it just auto renews. I think it's been quite,
Yeah, I don't know.
I think it's already renewed a couple times.
It's renewed a few times. I can look it up and tell you when the last renewal went in effect.
Yeah.
It was renewed, in 2015, I think.
Not been long.
I combine interest earned and miscellaneous for the purposes of, I combined some of the line items for the purposes of this PowerPoint, so just let me know if you have any questions. Interest earned is off of our checking account and our CD that we have. That's based off of the funds that are in each major fund, so general fund, 30, 31, et cetera. So interest earned is 10,800. Late fees cut out 20,000. Electric charges, $4,258,000. The sales tax, which is a direct pass through to the state at 7%, is $298.60. And I'm asking this year something we haven't done in the past, but what we are asking this year is we have quite a bit of net position in electric. And I'm asking that we take some of that money and we work on some infrastructure in the electric department as well. We've seen firsthand what it does to hold off and wait. You'll see in the expenses and the line improvements that we have, Glenn and his team have started an asset management plan for pole replacements. We want to start working on some of those pole replacements. We got 4 fuses that need to be replaced. And so we are asking that we pull 100,000 out of reserve this year so we can get some of that stuff done. Now keep in mind at the end of the year, if we're in the green, we don't have to pull it out, but at the very least, we would like to have the options. And currently, at the end of the last fiscal year, their net position was 810,000. We are already in the green for this year. We've got a month and a half left, so I fully expect that to be in the 900,000 range. So we'll still be in excellent condition in the electric department. So that puts the total electric revenues at 4.7032. So one of the biggest things we've talked about this year is getting rid of load management and what that's going to do to our electric rates. I sat down with Glenn, who is the superintendent. I have sat down with Tim, who is going to be the incoming department head for that department. Currently, I stand on paper as the department head. It's just always been that way. Braston was the department head, and then when he left, it became me. Fred and I have talked, and it just makes more sense for a finance director not to be in charge of an enterprise fund. So, with Tim already being in charge of public works and wastewater treatment, it just public utilities, putting electric under him. So we all three have kind of talked. And so currently the residential rate for a load management switch base fee is $11.50. The non-load management base is $26.50. And the KWH rate is $10.97. NAKEMPA is not proposing a rate change this year. However, and Mr. Fred, you sit in those meetings, so you speak up. We are looking at a rate change in the next, right, 23, 24 fiscal year.
Yes, we are.
So we don't feel that we need to decrease the rate if we're going to have to increase the rate in another year. So we use some of that money that we have and we work on our infrastructure. Kind of the thought process. So what we're proposing for the new rate is to basically take an average of what the two base fees were and make the base fee $19 and then keep the KWH rate at $10.97. And keep in mind, we did a rate study in 2015. The proposed rate at that time for a base fee was $25. But we think we have been fine getting with where we are. And on the next slide, you'll kind of see it's kind of an even match for what we would lose as to what we would gain from the two different type of customers. So here's the rate projections. So this is the current just electric bill for a load management customer at 1,000 kilowatts.
Let me ask you a question about
Yes.
it. How do we stack up with Duke Power and with the other utilities?
So with Duke specifically, I calculated that last week when we were sitting in that meeting. They have they have two rates throughout the year. They have like a winter rate and a summer rate. So for the first half of the year, we're like 8% more than them. The second half of the year, we're 12, just because they can drop their rate a lot lower during that time of the year. And I would have to go back and look at some emails that I have from Crystal's done the study. I know the other municipalities were not that far off.
Is that the numbers for the new?
No, sir. That's what we're currently sitting at.
I got a question. I'm curious, and I'm not saying do anything about it, but why is the kilowatt hour rate so precise? Why is it not 0.11 rather than 0.1097?
We've always calculated it that way, and that was part when we did the rate study. That was the rate that they came up with. I don't know why it's 4 decimals out. I know when I was in Selma, it was 4 decimals out too.
Utilities Commission.
Yeah.
Percentages and how if it comes out 0.007, that's what you have to use.
Okay.
Yeah. So a current load management customer at 1,000 kilowatts, their electric bill is $129.68. A current non-load management customer at the same kilowatt usage is $145.73. With the new rate proposal of 19 as the base fee, the electric bill will be $137.70. So compared to our load management customer today, that's an $8 increase. Compared to our non-load management customer, it's an $8 decrease. Does anybody have any questions on that?
Run that by me again.
Okay. So a current load management customer that has a base fee of $11.50, just their electric bill is $129.68. A non-load management customer where their base fee is $26.50 today, their electric portion would be $145.73. With the proposed rate at $19 base fee, their electric bill will be $137.70. So if you're looking at the difference between today and tomorrow, a load management customer stands to their bill to go up $8, where a non-load management customer, their bill goes down $8 in the new rate. because we took an average of the two base fees and got the new base rate.
What's the average of load management customers to non-load management customers?
It's about 50-50. It's like,
So it is gonna be rewash.
yeah. Which was why, you know, my thought process was to go in that route. I think that we need, I honestly feel like we probably need to do another rate study. I don't necessarily think that the same company needs to do it, but I think we really need to sit down as we are looking at development coming in, and we're looking at system development fees for water and sewer. We're talking about it for electric, and I think it would stand us all just a great service to do a rate study on water, sewer, and electric rates. Just my opinion.
Well, you know, the meeting we had with Duke, that was one of the points that they don't have enough power here to give us another substation. But he was gonna look to see what, where we really stood in power. We know that if we did a lot over on the other side of 95, that we would have to run another line to the east side, because you're just gonna need more over there. But the fact that somebody else, you know, has most of those customers, it, you know, it would help us. We looked at trying to talk them into letting us have some of the customers there, but when we got finished looking at it, it was gonna cost us about $4 million, so it wasn't worth it.
So is everybody good with this slide? All right, so proposed expenditures. Power purchase is at $3,014,000. That's the number that we get from electricity based off of estimations for the year. Electric sales tax again is a direct wash from the revenue, so that's going to be the same as your revenue number. Salaries, and did you give them the spreadsheet, Angie? Okay, so salaries are broken down better on the spreadsheet, but that is adding one employee to the electric department. So currently you have a superintendent, you have a level 2, level 1, 2 level 3, 2 level 3s, and we have a vacancy at level 2, and then we want one more spot in the electric department. Simply because their on-call schedule is just, it's a lot. They feel like if we can add another person, it would help kind of offset and balance their on-call schedule. Also, out of electric, you have an admin assistant that electric and water share, so she's at half. We have a meter reader who's part-time that's half. You have my staff up at the front, so a full-time customer service, a part-time customer service, and 2 account technicians at half. And then myself, myself, Angie, Fred, Scott, Tyler are all a third in the electric department, and then we account for overtime as well. So that puts salaries at $517,259. Retirement and Social Security is all a percentage. That's a calculation, 124, 137 based off of the salaries. IT services for BC3, the portion coming out of electric is $45,000. All operational costs, and I just kind of pushed a lot of things up under this. It's just strictly operational, field services, professional, legal. That all comes out to $262. Insurance for the employees that are coming out of this department, as well as liability and workers' comp at $133. Equipment, they asked for a new ditch witch at $70,000. They also asked for a small bucket truck. However, in talking with Glenn and Tim, we have 2 more years left on the large line truck that we have. So
it was the suggestion that we hold off. The small bucket is still in condition that they can use, but we always like to start telling the board a couple years in advance that that will be a wish list eventually. Or more of a need, not a wish list. It's a wish list right now. It'll be a need in a few years. But they do need a ditch witch, and the ditch witch will come out of electric, but I think it would be beneficial for all the field staff departments to use when we're working. Line improvements and replacements, so 100,000 of this is what I was talking about earlier with coming out of our electric fund balance with the breakers and the pole replacements, and then there's an underground that has to be done that Glenn's already estimated out for us at 42. Capital outlay is the 2 leases that we currently hold. We have 2 years left on one, and 4, let's see, I wrote it down. So one falls off in 22-23 and the other falls off in 24-25. They were short leases. And total expenditures are 4,703,200, which means that 31 is a balanced budget. We went ahead and balanced that out. There's a picture of the ditch witch for some of us who didn't know what that was, because I did not. I had to look it up. I don't know equipment like they do. But that's the $70,000 piece of equipment that they are looking at. Again, this is a balanced budget, 431, and that included the needs that they had. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Does anybody have any questions of Kim? Conference room screening system.
So Tyler apologizes. He's not here tonight. He would have brought this to y'all. But one of the kind of biggest complaints he gets lately is the sound equipment in here is really bad. You can't hear it online. You can't hear them streaming. I think sometimes the mics are a little iffy if they're going to work. So Tyler got in touch with Tritronics Audio Visual, who actually did the equipment in the back initially, and asked for a quote that would get us properly outfitted for proper streaming technology with desktop microphones. If y'all remember the Johnston County meeting, y'all had those microphones sitting on the desk. It made it very easy to hear with all the people that were in this room. The sound was the best I've ever heard it. And so he said this would be everything we need to have professional streaming set up in quality video and audio, because we would no longer have this laptop sitting in the middle of you guys covering everybody up. We would be able to do all the video from the ceiling, and he would be able to live stream it. It's not cheap. So, and I think when we put this PDF in the board book, it did something really funky. So I apologize, we noticed that today. It was like a bunch of symbols, but the proposal that Tritronics has given us is a total with tax $15,627. Now, this is something that we could potentially do before the end of the fiscal year, and have it done. The general fund is very much in the positive. We have been very careful on spending this year. I think that with, I need to readjust line items anyway for that general fund. So if the board is willing to go ahead and do this for this center right here, I can bring forth a budget amendment at the next meeting that kind of cleans up the line items specifically and have this a home in the budget. But I need to know what the wishes of the board are.
What do you say?
Well, I say if we're gonna do it, we need to do it right, because it is irritating to sit back there in the back and can't hear what's going on.
It is.
Very irritating. So I think if we're gonna do it, then I think we should do it right.
I've got a question.
I can hear you.
Kim, would this equipment allow you to be able to stream the presentations off of the TV when you're doing meetings like this as well?
I believe it does. There is, if you look at the quotes, there is an actual, widescreen monitor that's in here, and so I do believe that it does that. And I'm sorry, I wasn't the one that talked with Tritronic, Tyler did, but I know he vetted it, so I'm sure he considered that as well.
I make a motion that we approve it as presented.
Any discussion?
Is that all?
I don't think that's all.
All in favor, say aye.
Uh,
Opposed, no.
Thank y'all.
Revision of trash receptacle ordinance. Kim?
We're skipping the municipal agreement items.
Yeah, that one's first.
Right.
Yeah, that, Mayor, the consider approval of the municipal agreement, for DOT for lighting work. That one's first.
Is that the one she gave me?
No, that's C. On here under new business. You just skipped over it, went to the trash receptacle.
We skipped one,
Yeah. It's on there.
which I was gonna tell you we need to skip it anyway, because DOT hasn't sent the municipal agreement as of yet, that I'm aware of. We signed a municipal agreement for the project betterments, the stormwater line from Dunn Street, the main, we a little bit of sidewalk that was to be added with the pedestrian facility on the bridge. We signed that agreement. The group that works on electrical, the electrical infrastructure that's being impacted by the project was a little late to the game for some reason, just all the moving parts in a project like this. We did have a system betterment identified in the electrical side, which was a small amount of conduit. It's between $3,000 and $4,000 worth of work. So it's a minimal amount of work, small value, but there'll have to be a municipal agreement drawn up for that item as well. So whenever DOT gets that drafted, we'll bring it. We believe that it would have been in by today, but I don't believe it was complete. Have you seen it?
I have not.
They're gonna be free?
The small amount of conduit that we've requested will not be free. That's something that that was asked to be added inside of the right of way during the construction. Any questions? Move on to trash receptacle.
You looking for approval on?
No, sir. No, sir. We would have been were we holding an agreement, but since it didn't show up, there's no action needed for that. Unless we want to.
Trash receptacle.
I think because there's monetary involved, I don't know that you want to. They ain't gonna be on the meeting.
I think every time there's a deadline, moves. So.
Yeah, I think we have another meeting in May, I think, for that.
Okay. Yeah, we'll bring that back later. On the trash receptacle, this is a revision of the trash receptacle ordinance. This is in response to the request of the staff to make a legitimate effort at helping encourage residents to remove their trash receptacles from the right of way to get them back to their house. Our ordinance sort of called out the requirement for people to do that, but we didn't have a really good enforcement arm in that ordinance. So there's been some effort at drafting up a revision to that ordinance to call out exactly how we can enforce and penalize for individuals that don't bring their carts in. We've also identified a enforcement fee associated with that. The ordinance already called out civil penalty, but recognizing that getting out and identifying these offenders and assessment of civil penalty does require a certain amount of effort, energy, cost from the town to be able to make that enforcement. So, do you guys have a copy of that? It's in red. We identified that any entity which causes or allows receptacles to remain at the curb outside the specified time should be subject to the cost of enforcement in addition to the civil penalty imposed. One warning will be given to the entity in possession of the receptacle, and the receptacle should be placed back on the property. So we'll issue a warning, and we'll move the cart out of the street, put it back in their yard. All subsequent violations will result in removal of the receptacle, and the property owner will be assessed the cost of enforcement in addition to the civil penalty. So, so the second time around, if we find that cart in the street, we're going to remove the cart and assess that civil penalty as well as the enforcement cost. So, we're going to do that to try to hopefully encourage. We're going to get information out to the public, try to help people understand that these are the actions we're going to take, and hopefully we don't have to do any enforcement of civil penalty assessment. In the event that we do, this is the change to direct us on how to do that. So,
yeah, if I could just real quick, number one, I want to give Erin a lot of credit because she wrote that, and I couldn't change a word of it when I looked at it. So it's well written, just a short, sweet addendum. Just understand, I talked with Commissioner Holly about this a few weeks ago when this was being looked at being done. When you can cite someone criminally and then you go to court, that's not a good enforcement mechanism for something such as this for lots of reasons I won't go into. I can later individually if you like. You can cite them civilly, and if you do that, it's in the nature of a civil debt. If they don't pay it, you've got to get me to sue them in district court. If I am successful, and we'll have a judgment, which you probably will never collect, but if you did, you have to give that money to the school board. So that's fraught with some problems too. This mechanism here, if we don't deem it a civil penalty, but the cost of enforcement, along the same lines of if someone's power is turned off for non-payment and they call the town and one of our guys has to get it on the truck at 11 o'clock at night and go turn their power back on, there's a fee for that. It's commensurate with what it costs to get the truck out and get the fellow out and go out and do all that. And, so I don't know, $500, whatever, so it's a little bit of money, but it's not penalizing them. It's just collecting from them what it costs the town. If you do that in this case, we can monetize what it actually costs, then you can put that on the utility bill. And of course, then they'll pay a fee that way if they want to keep the utilities current and not have the utilities turned off. So it's maybe the right amount of teeth in that enforcement mechanism without, and the other extreme, which is, having a police officer cite them and with a criminal citation to give them a court date, which is overly extreme and probably not going to yield a lot of compliance anyway. So that's what we're trying to accomplish.
We identified the enforcement cost at $22.50. Now that was a pretty accurate drill down into what we believe it costs to roll a truck for the individual to spend the time out there doing it, the processing, generating letters, the postage fees, all the costs associated with appropriately notifying that individual of this penalty. So $22.50 would be that enforcement cost.
So, Let me ask you a question, and I understand what you're saying, and that's fine. I don't care how you do it, as long as it's done. Now, you said the penalty would be 22.
That's the enforcement cost. The civil penalty is 50 for the first offense, 100 for the second offense, and 150 for the third offense,
And thereafter.
and thereafter.
And the civil penalty is what goes to the school. So I would essentially take that money in and then write a check every month to the school and the amount of civil penalties that we got.
I don't have a problem with that. I understand what you're saying. And this is fine the way that you want to go. I don't have any problem with that. But this is what I do want us to do. I want us to enforce it. Say, I think it's a lot of ordinance on the book already that's not being enforced. So if we're gonna do it, then let's enforce it. That's my concern.
And we certainly will.
Yeah.
We'll have a truck on the road, getting around, and we'll move carts back in the yard the first time. After that, truck goes on our truck, comes back to our yard, and we'll be sending out letters to people letting them know that their cart is gone and where it is and what they've got to do to get it back.
I do want to note that the actual fee is in the fee schedule for July 1, so that'll all get approved when the budget gets approved. But what we want to do between now and June 30th is inform people. This is what we're doing. You'll see it in the newsletter. We'll see it running on Facebook. I'm even considering writing a letter and sending it to all the residents saying, this is going to start officially July 1. So you won't see immediate action after tonight. We don't want to kind of slap somebody in the face with a fee. We want people to know that this is coming. So just know we are planning on enforcing it.
How would you keep up with as far as say, like you go out, you hit it, because the first time's a warning, right?
Yes.
It is.
So you go out, this resident, you give them a warning. Next week, they're fine. Next week after that, it's back out there. How are you keeping up with their space?
We have to keep a similar database for yard waste, for non-compliant yard waste files.
Just on a computer base, or is it just handwritten?
No, it's in a spreadsheet on a computer that our assistants in the utilities office maintains.
We can also do it on work orders.
Yeah, we can run it through the work orders. It's a logistical nightmare to keep up with. It really is. But yeah.
Well, I know that's the reason why I asked. I knew the people, like you're gonna have your repeat offenders, and then they're gonna get fined, but you might have one or two that does it every so often, and they don't get the ticket. And
we already maintain a similar database. It's probably, assuming that we don't get full compliance, it's probably a smaller list than what we'll have to deal with this. And we also purge it annually. So if you forgot your cart today, and a year from now you forgot your cart, it's not like a year from now you'd be considered in that second offense. We purge it after a year, and we want to encourage compliance. We want people to take their carts back. Our effort is not to try to catch people and collect $22.50.
And what day are y'all going around?
We'll be going.
So like traction pickups on Thursday.
We'll be going twice a week. We'll have to go out on Thursday morning for one half of the town, and Friday morning for the other half of the town.
And then their afternoon will be spent sending out letters.
So where I live at is Thursday, they pick up the truck. I'm at traction.
Yeah.
So when will my warning?
Friday morning is when we'll be out. You'll get a pink card on your door.
Y'all might be writing me a ticket. Just to be honest with you, y'all might be writing me one.
The ordinance calls to bring it back to your house by sundown that day. I believe it.
Because there's been times I've been worked late. I've worked 3:30 in the morning. It was on a Thursday night, Friday morning. Got home, got me a little bit of sleep, and that cart was still there till Friday afternoon. As a matter of fact, I was on the phone with somebody with the town and I was rolling it back in. So criminal. Yeah, criminal.
Well, if you pay the fine long enough, you get that.
I don't leave it there over the weekend or nothing like that. So
Right. And we feel like we have to be as fair as we can possibly be, because there is a 2-day schedule for the town, and the ordinance reads returning by sundown that same day. Then we have no choice. In the spirit of being fair about it, we've got to make these assessments twice in a week. We've got to follow the Wednesday pickup schedule on Thursday, and we've got to in turn follow a Thursday pickup schedule on Friday morning.
And I think once you get started and really enforce it, I don't think you're gonna have that much problem.
And I hope that's the case, because our public works staff is a pretty small staff, and this is going to be a burden. This if it continues for a very long period of time, it at current staffing levels could impact other services by having to tackle this issue.
Now, what if trash is missed on Thursday and it's picked up on Friday? You gonna have somebody rolling on Saturday?
You're confusing me.
I'm not confused. I'm just realistic. Yeah, you got a holiday.
Yeah, I mean, we've got to, we will be as fair and consistent as possible.
Okay.
I've not really thought through all the potential scenarios, but rest assured we'll do our best.
Have you thought about who you need to cite? Because my wife, it's her job to push you back.
You?
Yeah, I don't want to get involved in that at all.
Hey, you gonna be coming with me.
So Cam, you wanted, permission or what to go on and start putting it in the newsletter?
Yeah, so if you guys pass the ordinance, then that'll get us moving on the next steps that we need to do. I'll get with Tyler, it'll be in the next newsletter, and we'll get some letters done. Me or Fred will be from one of us, we'll sign it, we'll get it out and get it going for July 1.
If we can pass the ordinance revision
Then we can start working.
with the agreement that there'll be a fee associated with that, that'll show up when we approve the fee schedule.
And I'm presenting the fee schedule at the next board meeting, the May board meeting, so you'll see it in there. So, yeah.
I entertain a motion.
Okay.
Thank you. I make that motion that we approve.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no.
Thank you.
That's fine.
You can be the first one.
Consider approval of budget amendment number 5.
Street paving.
So it's, should be street paving project first, right?
Yeah.
So at the last board meeting, we talked about, the POW bill when, I believe Tim was talking about, his budget. So in the current budget, we had budgeted, the 100,000 for POW bill, and then we did 150 in fund balance. And then we were going to combine this current year and next fiscal year to do one large street paving. So this is the project ordinance that I discussed with you all at the last board meeting, to total up to $500,000 for the new street paving project.
I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. Now budget amendment number 5.
Now budget amendment number 5. That is simply moving the budgeted $250,000 from this current budget into the project.
Entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve budget amendment number 5.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. Approval of March 21 financials.
Okay, at the end of March, we should have been at 75%. When we closed out, our revenues were 81.33 and our expenditures were at 71.58. So we are over in revenues and under in expenditures, just like I like it. If you have any questions, let me know. Please note that I have ceased all spending, with the exception of things that need to get done or the sound equipment that we just approved. But if you only do it if you absolutely have to. It is May. We've got one more month to go. I'll start doing budget audit entries at the end of June. So it has slowed down tremendously. from what it was before.
Attest to that.
Anybody have any questions of Kim? I'll entertain a motion on the budget.
I make a motion that we approve.
Any questions? All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. I'm gonna skip that one for right now. Consider the approval of additional board meeting for budgeting purposes, June 23rd. That's on a Wednesday now.
Yes, Mayor Board, if we can get approval for the June 23rd meeting to wrap up, we'll meet our deadline of the 30th of June to have that budget approved. I think you see that we've been deliberate in bringing the items on the budget to you. And as the team is wrapping up, you'll see that we'll have the, I'm not going to state the hearing on the first meeting.
It'll be on June, the June 8th meeting.
June
We'll
8th
have the
meeting.
hearing.
And then wrap up any loose ends at the end of the month.
So the 23rd is the date or the 30th?
23rd.
23rd.
Yes, sir.
All in favor, say aye.
I make a motion to approve.
Okay.
Thank you.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. Consider approval of revision of noise ordinance.
Thank you, Mayor and Board. This is following to me. It's not really my baby, but I'm probably the proper person to present it because you're amending an ordinance. That's what's proposed to be. So there have been some complaints. I'm going to be as brief as I can because I know it's getting late. There's been some complaints over the years, and in my time doing this, 11 years, going on 12 now, there will often be noise complaints. Your noise ordinance now is chapter 96. I don't think that's in your packet. You can pull it up, take my word for it. It's about a page, and maybe a page and a half with lots of spacing. It addresses things that you want to have addressed. Horns, loud noises, been written some years ago. Fred and myself were talking about. It's got a provision about sound trucks, which anybody can remember sound trucks riding around campaigning and things. It addresses these things, but it does not deal with them in terms of decibel levels. And for any meaningful enforcement of a noise ordinance, it needs to have a decibel level component. Because if the noise violations are serious enough, and you to the level where you want to have a police officer cite an offender, you're essentially asking that officer to, in a completely subjective way, make a determination that it's unreasonable, it's